welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, let's just dive straight into this. Today, we're exploring a completely hilarious, cartoonishly disastrous adventure. If you've ever watched one of those animated shows where a character confidently leads their friends right off a cliff or straight into a brick wall, well, you are going to absolutely love this. We're looking at a classic story called In a Puzzle with Twists and Turns. It all takes place at the famous Hampton Court Maze in London, which is actually the oldest hedge maze in the entire world. And let me tell you, things are about to get incredibly wacky.
So, let me ask you, have you ever been totally, completely, embarrassingly lost? Picture this. You're at the very front of the line, you've got a map in your hand, you're puffing out your chest and telling everyone, hey, follow me, I know exactly where I'm going. And then suddenly, you realize you've just been leading everyone in giant circles. It's literally the ultimate facepalm moment, right? Well, that is exactly what happens to the main character in our story today.
Let's go ahead and meet the crew that's about to experience this epic fail. We've got the author's group of friends who decided to go on a holiday. There's David, there's the author, there's a dog named Jenny, and, most importantly, there's Smith. Now, Smith is the guy with the map. He's strutting around in his blue coat, acting like he holds all the secrets of the universe. He decides he's going to lead these tourists through the Hampton Court Maze. But Smith isn't just taking them for a casual walk. Oh no, he's on a mission to prove how incredibly smart he is.
Before they even step foot inside, you've got to get a load of how massive Smith's ego is. He takes one look at the map he studied and basically scoffs. It's absurd to call it a maze. He honestly thinks it's so incredibly simple that it's just foolish. He even goes so far as to claim that paying the 2 pence admission charge is hardly worth it. He thinks the map must be some kind of practical joke because it doesn't look tricky at all. He confidently tells his friends that he's just going to pop in, walk around for a bit, and come right back out. It is the absolute perfect setup for a cartoonish disaster.
So, what is his brilliant, foolproof strategy? It's hilariously simple. Step 1, keep taking the first turning to the right. Step 2, just walk around for about 10 minutes. Step 3, go get some lunch. He is literally treating the oldest hedge maze in the world like a quick, easy stroll to the refrigerator. Sounds super simple, right? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, pretty much the whole shebang, actually. The really crucial thing to understand here is that Smith's totally unearned confidence acts like a giant magnet. Soon after they wander inside the maze, they start bumping into people who had been trapped in there for 3/4 of an hour. These folks are exhausted, they've totally had enough. And what does Smith do? He confidently tells them to just follow him. Word spreads like wildfire, and suddenly, Smith accidentally recruits a massive, trusting mob of 20 people to follow him. Imagine this, a giant Congo line of 20 people all marching confidently behind a guy who actually has absolutely no idea what he's doing.
And the makeup of this crowd, it's pure comedy gold. The story tells us they literally absorbed all the persons in the maze who had given up all hopes of ever getting out or seeing their homes again. They're looking at Smith like he's this great hero, practically blessing him. And the absolute best part, there's a woman with a baby who had been stuck in the maze all morning. She's so terrified of losing her supposed savior that she insists on physically clutching onto Smith's arm. Picture that for a second. Smith is trying to look super cool and navigate the maze, while a desperate mother holding a baby is just clinging to his arm for dear life.
But, as you might guess, this is exactly where the cracks begin to show. Let's compare Smith's master plan to the actual reality of the situation. Remember his promise of a quick 10-minute stroll before lunch? Well, Smith just keeps turning right, and right, and right again. And it's taking a really, really long time. Smith tries to play it cool, saying, "Oh, well, this must be one of the largest mazes in Europe." And his cousin just dryly replies, "Yes, it must be, because we've walked a good 2 miles already." 2 miles inside a single hedge maze? You can almost see the animated gears turning in everyone's heads as they realize something is terribly, terribly wrong.
And then, the ultimate cartoon clue appears right there on the ground. The cousin stops dead in his tracks and points. He spots half of a penny bun just lying in the dirt. And he absolutely swears that he noticed that exact same piece of bread on the ground 7 minutes ago. They are literally walking in circles. Smith, starting to panic and desperately trying to keep his authority, immediately shouts, "Oh, impossible." But he's about to be spectacularly proven wrong.
This is it. This is the exact moment the entire crowd completely turns on him. You can practically see the steam shooting out of their ears. That woman with the baby, the one gripping his arm, she takes one look at that half-penny bun and yells, "Not at all." Why? Because she is the one who took it from her child and threw it on the ground just before she met Smith. The proof is totally undeniable. She loudly wishes she had never even met him and declares to the whole mob that Smith is an imposter. Smith gets mad, whips out his map, and tries to explain his brilliant theory, but nobody is buying it anymore. The jig is up.
Then, someone smartly points out that the map is really only useful if you actually know where you are on it. Since Smith obviously doesn't, they decide to just walk in the exact opposite direction to try and find the entrance. But somehow, boom! 10 minutes later, they end up dead in the center of the maze. They consult the map again, try one more time, and just 3 minutes later, boom! Back in the center again. It's almost like the maze is magically, stubbornly pulling them right back to the middle.
At this point, the story perfectly sums up their utter defeat. After that, they simply couldn't get anywhere else. Whatever way they turned, it always brought them right back to the middle. It became so regular that some people just gave up, sat down, and waited for the others to take a walk around and come right back to them. The mob is absolutely infuriated. When Smith tries to pull out his map one more time, they angrily tell him to go curl his hair with it. Yeah, Smith finally realizes that, to a certain extent, he's become slightly unpopular with this group.
Finally, the crazy, trapped crowd just starts screaming for the maze keeper. A young keeper hears all the commotion and climbs up a ladder on the outside of the hedge. He starts shouting directions down to them. But by now, the crowd's heads are in such a confused, frustrated whirl that they can't grasp a single thing he's saying. So the young keeper tells them to stay exactly where they are, and he climbs down into the maze to heroically rescue them himself. Help is finally on the way. Or so they think.
Okay, brace yourselves, because here comes the ultimate slapstick punchline. Are you ready for this? He got lost too. That's right, the young keeper was brand new to the job, he climbs down into the maze to save this massive trapped mob, and he instantly loses his way. The rescuer literally needs a rescue. You can't make this stuff up.
It turns into an absolute cartoon circus. The trapped crowd is just huddled there in the center, and every 5 minutes the frantic young keeper just rushes wildly past the hedge on the other side. They wait another 5 minutes, and he reappears in the exact same spot, stopping to ask them where they are. The guy who is hired to show them the way out is just running laps around them, asking for directions. It's like a real-life Scooby-Doo chase scene.
So, how do they finally escape this endless nightmare of tall hedges and terrible directions? Well, they just have to sit there in the center and wait until the old, experienced keeper finally comes back from eating his dinner. The old keeper expertly navigates the maze and finally gets this ridiculous, exhausted parade of people out. And you want to know the craziest part? Even after all of that, Smith still refuses to admit defeat. He tells them he thinks it's a very fine maze, and even suggests they send his friend David back into it. Classic Smith. Never change, buddy.
Which brings us to the real core lesson from our story today, and it's a brilliant one for kids and adults alike. The map may be all right if you know whereabout we are now. All the tools, all the swagger, and all the maps in the world are completely useless if you don't actually know your starting point. You have to be honest about where you are before you can figure out where you're going. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this provocative thought. In your own life, when you're rushing forward with total, absolute confidence, are you really following a solid plan? Or are you kind of just like Smith, dragging a crowd in circles, waiting for an old maze keeper to rescue you? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this wild, twisty adventure.